The house smelled like roasted turkey and cinnamon, the kind of warmth that should have felt like home. Golden light from the kitchen window spilled across the dining table as I placed each plate carefully, aligning every fork, napkin, and candle. Thanksgiving had always been my favorite holiday, at least. It used to be. This year, I was trying harder than ever to make it perfect. Maybe if everything looked beautiful, my father would finally be proud. Don't overdo it, Emily. He called from the living room, his voice mixing with the noise of the football game. It's just dinner, not a wedding. I smiled weakly, pretending not to care. That's how things worked in our house. You laughed when you wanted to cry. My mother was busy stirring gravy, glancing at me every so often as if to warn me not to take his words too seriously. I reached for the last candle, humming softly to myself. The air felt peaceful for a brief moment, until I noticed the faint glint of something behind me. My father was standing in the doorway, holding up his phone. He was filming. I frowned. "Dad, what are you doing?" He chuckled. "Just capturing the effort you're putting into this table. You're like a little Martha Stewart." I rolled my eyes and went back to arranging the centerpiece, thinking it was harmless. He was always like that, making jokes at my expense, teasing me in front of guests. I told myself not to overthink it. Later that night, after everyone had eaten and the laughter faded, I curled up in bed, scrolling through my phone. My notifications were flooded. At first, I thought they were friendly messages, but then I saw it. My father had posted the video. The caption read, "When your daughter sets the table like she's auditioning for MasterChef face. Hundreds of comments poured in within hours. Some laughed, others mocked. "She's so dramatic. Someone tell her it's just dinner. Look at her, trying too hard." Each word felt like a slap. My heart sank, my hands trembled. The one person I trusted to protect me had turned me into a joke for strangers. I could hear his laughter from the living room, showing my uncles the post, saying, "It's just for fun. Don't be so sensitive." But as tears streamed down my face, I realized it wasn't just fun. It was humiliation dressed as humor, betrayal hidden behind a screen. That night, while the house slept, I sat at the table I'd set so carefully and whispered, "One day, I'll take this moment back." The following morning felt heavier than usual. The sunlight that streamed through the curtains seemed harsh, almost accusing. I had barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that video me smiling awkwardly, arranging the plates, completely unaware that the person I trusted most was turning my care into comedy. When I walked into the kitchen, Dad was laughing over his phone again. "You're viral," he said proudly, as if it were something to celebrate. 20,000 views overnight. You're famous." I froze. Famous for what? For being your joke? He rolled his eyes. "Oh, come on, it's harmless. People are just having fun." But it didn't feel harmless. It felt like the whole world had been invited into my home only to laugh at me. My mother said nothing, just kept stirring her coffee, her eyes fixed on the mug. Silence was her language of survival. By the time I got to work, the whispers had already started. My coworker Jenna smirked. "Nice performance, Em. You really went all out with those napkins." Another coworker chuckled from the corner. My cheeks burned. I forced a smile, but it didn't reach my eyes. Over the next few days, the comments online grew meaner. People picked apart everything: my weight, my clothes, even the way I moved. Each insult chipped away at something inside me. I deleted the post from my profile, but my father had already shared it on several family groups. "Everyone thinks it's funny," he said. "Don't be dramatic. I stopped going out for lunch. I avoided mirrors. My appetite disappeared, replaced by a quiet ache that never went away." At night, I could hear my father laughing in the next room, retelling the story like it was a highlight of his year. One evening, my best friend Maya came over. She looked at me with concern. "You're disappearing, Em," she said softly. "I just want it to stop," I whispered. She took my hand. "It won't stop on its own. People like your dad only learn when they see what they've done. You don't have to forgive him right now. But don't let him own the ending." Her words sank deep into me. Maybe silence wasn't peace. Maybe it was surrender. That night, I opened my journal for the first time in months. I wrote every thought, every wound, every word I wished I'd said. and somewhere between the anger and the tears, I made a quiet promise to myself I wouldn't stay the joke. I'd rewrite the story, on my terms. A full year passed, yet the memory of that night still lingered like a shadow behind every smile. The viral video had lost its place on people's feeds, but it never truly disappeared from my mind. I had spent months rebuilding myself, bit by bit, day by day. Therapy, journaling, volunteering, learning to speak out instead of swallowing my pain. Slowly, the broken pieces of me began to form something stronger. So when November came around again, I made a decision that surprised even me. I invited my parents for Thanksgiving dinner. My father sounded amused over the phone. Finally over that little joke, huh? Something like that, I said quietly. I spent days preparing. This time, every plate, napkin, and candle wasn't about seeking approval. It was about reclaiming peace. The scent of roasted turkey filled the house again, but the air felt different. I wasn't the same girl who cried at this table. When my parents arrived, I greeted them calmly. Mom looked nervous, eyes darting between us. Dad, on the other hand, walked in with his usual arrogance, carrying a bottle of wine and that familiar smirk. "Let's see if the famous table. Sutter still has her touch," he joked. I smiled faintly. "You'll see soon enough." Dinner began quietly. The flicker of candles painted soft light over the dishes I had prepared with care. My father filled his plate and started another story about the viral video, laughing to himself. Mom shifted uncomfortably, but said nothing. That's when I stood up. "There's something I'd like to share," I said, walking over to the TV in the corner. I pressed play. At first, the same video began the one he had posted a year ago. My father chuckled. "Oh, not this again." But then the tone shifted. The screen faded to black, and my voice filled the room. This was the night. My father turned my kindness into comedy. But it became the night I found my strength. Clips followed, me journaling, volunteering at support groups, speaking about digital cruelty. Pictures of others who had suffered similar public shaming appeared on screen. My story had become something bigger than humiliation. It was a message about empathy and dignity. When the video ended, silence filled the room. My father's smile had vanished. His eyes darted from me to the screen. Speechless, I looked straight at him. "You taught me how powerful one post can be. I just wanted to show you what I did with mine." He didn't reply. For the first time in my life, I saw him truly silent. The silence after my video ended was louder than any shouting could have been. My father stared at the blank TV screen, his fork motionless in his hand. My mother dabbed her eyes with a napkin, whispering, "Emily," but I didn't need her to say more. For the first time, she looked at me not with pity, but with pride. My father tried to laugh it off. "You didn't have to make such a big deal out of it," he muttered. "It was just a joke." I met his eyes calmly. "So was yours." That ended the conversation. Dinner went on in uneasy silence, the candles flickering between us like fragile truths. When they left that night, I stood at the door and watched them go. The air outside was cold, but inside me, something had finally settled. Something strong, certain, and free. Within a week, the video I'd shown at dinner spread online. Someone who'd been there that night, maybe my cousin, had shared it. But unlike before, this time people weren't laughing, they were listening. My words about humiliation, trust, and emotional cruelty resonated with thousands. Messages poured in from people I'd never met. "Thank you for speaking what I couldn't. Your courage gave me strength." My story became part of something larger, a movement about digital dignity and accountability. News outlets reached out. I hesitated at first, afraid of reliving the pain, but then I remembered Maya's words, "Don't let him own the ending." So I gave interviews, spoke openly, and started a foundation called Reclaim Voices, dedicated to helping victims of online humiliation rebuild their confidence. Meanwhile, my father faced the world's judgment. His coworkers whispered behind his back. The same people who had once shared his funny video now avoided his gaze. He tried to delete the post, but it was too late. The internet remembers everything. Weeks later, he called me. His voice was quieter, older somehow. "I didn't realize what I'd done to you," he said. "I know," I replied softly. "But I did." Forgiveness came slowly, not as a favor to him, but as a gift to myself. I refused to let bitterness become my identity. The next Thanksgiving, I set the table again. The candles glowed gently, reflecting in the polished silverware. I took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of my own company. This time, there was no camera, no laughter, just peace. As I placed the final plate, I whispered to the empty room, sometimes, revenge isn't about destroying someone. It's about reclaiming your story. And in that quiet I knew I finally had.